Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with our great idea in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from West Palm Beach, Florida. Saril Vasquez is a triple certified functional practitioner who's helping women reverse hair loss naturally by uncovering root causes. Let's find out how this entrepreneur has transitioned from the pharmaceutical industry to helping others find their inner Belle. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Saril Vasquez.
Thank you. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here.
You know, I've really been looking forward to our conversation today because as a woman of a certain age, I'm experiencing a certain amount of hair loss. And when I read your bio, you mentioned that you're triple certified. So help us, our viewing and listening audience, to understand what that means when we seek your help with hair loss. What does triple certified mean?
Essentially, what that means is I have multiple certifications in functional medicine. I'm a certified functional nutrition counselor. I'm a true cellular detox practitioner and a certified event interventionist. The latter is really there to help with the coaching aspect of what I do. I studied neurolinguistic programming in that program.
Right.
And when I work with my clients, the idea is to help them understand how the body is supposed to work, where it all goes wrong that is causing the hair loss, and what can we do on a functional level to fix it. But if I'm not able to inspire them or, communicate the best way, then I won't get the results for them.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I love when I read your story that, yours was a journey. So not only did you have a personal experience with hair loss, but you also were really empowered and inspired by some of the, workshops that you went to, some of the people that you connected with. So is there someone that you can sort of, or a particular incident that you can share with us that's part of your aha moment when you said, okay, I really need to help other people with this same problem?
Oh, certainly. I remember as if it was yesterday, I was listening to an online event called Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And he was talking about how several times in his coaching career, people would say, I've tried everything and nothing is working. And it was in that moment that I realized I am just like them.
Right.
I know that what I am wanting to accomplish, I don't necessarily have evidence that it's been accomplished before, but that doesn't mean that it cannot be done. Right. And what I need to do is continue going or just die trying. And that was when I decided to hire the expensive practitioners, order the expensive labs. I even spent $20,000 on hyperbaric oxygen therapy alone. So you can imagine how much I spent just trying to uncover everything. Sure. And then at the very end of that, I had yet another moment. And I think there's something to do with high energy, high emotion experiences and what they can produce in your life.
Oh, and that's so true.
How powerful that is. So I remember one day in that process, I looked up into the heavens and I said, God, what am I missing? I know I'm missing something, because I had been able to grow the hair longer and change the texture, but I couldn't thicken it yet. And it was because I had scar tissue under my scalp that's supposedly irreversible, I should say. And right then and there in my social media, in my phone, I found the answer that I was looking for.
Isn't that great? I mean, I love how the synchronicity in life happens, right? If we look for the signs and signals, they appear, right?
Absolutely.
You just have to be open to the opportunity. Now, I can tell you, I seriously spent an awful lot of time on my hair today because I can't interview someone who deals with hair loss and not, have spent a little bit of extra time primping and making sure that the hair was perfect.
You look fabulous.
Thank you. But one of the things that we struggle with when we start for hair loss, because I remember going to the hairdresser and saying, okay, like the shower's getting an awful lot of hair in it. What's going on? Oh, that's normal. That's normal. That happens with age. As you get older, your hormones change and all of that sort of thing. But is there a time when we see that there's kind of too much evidence in the sink or too much evidence in the shower that you need to sort of take notice and go, okay, wait a second. I need to take a step back and really take a look at what's happening here?
What an intelligent question. And I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people never think of trying to pinpoint when is the point that I should go get help. And a normal amount of hair loss is, 100 strands or less. But I've taken showers and my clients have taken showers and we've washed our hairs and we've lost 5, 6, 10 strands. So normal is what we're saying in comparison to the status quo, but a lot of us are sick. And what triggers hair loss coming out in the bushes it's usually, according to what I see in my clinical practice, allergies of some sort. And that could be mold, that could be dust,
Food.
or food, right?
Yeah.
Or hormone disarray, right? Hormones are not being harmonized and working in the symphony that they should be working in. And what most specifically is estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is very, 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 very common. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me because I have low estrogen. But you can still be estrogen dominant even if you have low estrogen. What we look at as functional practitioners is the ratio between progesterone and estrogen. And, making sure that we have more progesterone in relationship to, and there's different types of estrogen. So there are some estrogens that will protect you, that will help you age gracefully. But then there are some that are carcinogenic and can cause breast cancer, right? And so it is that type of estrogen, the one that is proliferative in nature, that can cause your hair loss to be more aggressive than it should. And I'm a perfect example of that, because what triggered massive amounts of hair loss for me was when I got off of birth control. And so what happened at that point was my body said, you've been giving me progesterone all this time.
All this time, yeah.
And now I forgot how to make it. So estrogen said, oh, well, I know what to do. And it just took over, right?
Yeah.
Regular providers that are in traditional medicine, they wouldn't really know to make that correlation. They're just looking at the ranges to what's normal, right? So they're like, well, I remember going to the doctor and they would say, well, you're still within the normal range of progesterone, but I was at the very, very end. You're still in the normal range of estrogen, but I was at the very top. And that was the disparity that was causing the symptoms.
So you know what? I absolutely love your passion, because I have to say, when you ask you what may be considered clinical questions, you're like so confident. And I love the fact that you've taken personal experience and education and passion for your community and put it into a business. Now, I know you're a relatively new entrepreneur. Can you give us an idea as to one of the barriers you had to break in terms of making that transition from going to pharmaceutical sales to, getting the education that you needed in order to build and feel confident in your practice, and then taking the leap into entrepreneurship?
Honestly, the biggest barrier I had to face was women older than me looking at me and thinking, there's no way you can help me because you're not in menopause yet.
So it was the example thing, right? They were looking for someone who was in the same age group. But that's sometimes valid, right? Because we tend to think, okay, she's not going to get it. She has no idea what it's like to be in menopause. And you know what? It's not something we talk about, right?
Right. And neither is hair loss.
That's right. We hide it. No pun intended, but we hide it. Like we try not to talk about it because it's kind of embarrassing. So I know you have some great functional tools on your website that people can use to try to give you an opportunity to open a conversation, make me, as an example, as a client, feel more comfortable talking about hair loss. Is that one of the goals and objectives that you had when you started to develop some of these wonderful tools?
I did want to create a safe space for people to open up and be vulnerable with me and explain what were all the different trigger points in their life that led to their hair loss. I've had people cry during our conversations, but always walking away hopeful, understanding that hair loss is in fact reversible for them if we're able to approach it from a different standpoint. And so I do have a tool that I utilize with my community where I have them answer, I think it's 85 questions, but they're all very necessary. And they're explaining if they were born vaginally or from a C-section, all the way to did they contract the COVID virus.
Right.
And that helps me understand what is it that is perpetuating hair loss within them in a way that's progressively getting worse, because that's showing me that the body isn't self-regulating.
Right.
And there's some sort of negative feedback loop that needs to be intercepted. And once I'm able to look at this information, the best part about it is I create a roadmap for them where I not only explain, and I'll say this as a side note, I had one client that came to me recently and she said, I have no idea why my hair loss started, when it started. I just know 4 years ago, I just started losing a lot of hair, and now her hair is see-through right now. You know, when she takes a picture, you can see through her hair, and it's obviously causing a lot of issues for her self-image and self-confidence.
Sure, it's devastating.
Absolutely. It's traumatic, really. And by the time I was done looking at everything, I was able to identify that the mold in her house was a way bigger deal than she thought, that her hair loss was triggered exactly the same year that she got the jab, right?
Right.
Yes. And there were other things too that added to that equation. We did see that she had remedied some of the symptoms as far as it getting progressively worse when she took away certain foods that I recommend in my Facebook community. I always tell everyone, don't eat sugar, gluten, dairy, corn, or rice. And she started implementing that, and she realized it wasn't getting worse as aggressively, but without being able to sit down and really paint that picture for me, she wouldn't have known that there were these major triggers in life that were able to make this impact in her looks, that she had the ability to turn around and do something about.
Now, I'm making an assumption that most of your business is done online, because your community is really global. You serve folks all over the world. Now, but do you have a face-to-face practice in addition? So, I've mentioned at the beginning of our discussion that you're in West Palm Beach. So clearly you're in Florida. And can people meet with you face to face, or do you find that there's a comfort level in meeting with folks, say, on a platform where they can be anywhere in the world and you're in Florida?
That is part of the expansion plan. I have already recently hosted a retreat for a different community that I have, and I would like to host a retreat in the near future for women suffering with hair loss so that I can literally dig my hands into their hair.
Right. Yeah, be face to face, right?
Right, absolutely. And check scalp motility in different conditions that will give me more information as to what is happening and how to help them. But I do find that without being in person, I'm still able to make an immense difference in the quality of lives of these women once they start getting results, which they could get fairly soon,
quickly,
depending on how compliant they are.
Sure.
So it's not a requirement, it's not necessary, but I think it would be nice to meet them.
Sure. Now, so here's a really interesting question. You have developed this amazing Facebook community, clearly, of like-minded individuals who are looking for your help. For those who may be just starting a business and, they're listening to us talk about your great idea and how you were able to pull your great idea into a business, is there some sort of marketing tip or tool that you could share with someone who's just starting out and how to build that community? Because that's really part and parcel of our success, is being able to share stories, share a dialogue, make comments, like and comment. So is there a tip or a marketing tool that you can share with our viewing and listening audience that you use to build that community?
No one's ever asked me that before, but that's a great question, because I did have a unique strategy to build my Facebook group. We have around 4,100 people in there right now.
It's amazing.
Thank you. And my strategy was going to other Facebook groups and providing massive value and establishing myself as someone that had something different to say and wasn't there just to ask for support in her pain, but instead to provide insight and solutions. And when I found people had questions that hadn't been answered, I would go into my Facebook group and create an intricate answer, screenshot it, and then come back and post it in the other person's Facebook group. And then they would see, oh, I'm going to go join that Facebook group too, because
I'm getting answers.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that was, and then I also hired a virtual assistant to help me share some of my posts in other groups, and that was helpful as well.
Well, you know what? I think that's a really wonderful tip, because often when we start, part of the process is trying to increase our visibility, right? I mean, how do we make connections with like-minded individuals who are looking for the solutions that we provide? So I think that's a really wonderful way and a wonderful tip that you've shared with our viewing and listening audience. You can sort of take that into their own practice or their own business and give them a little bit of confidence that it takes time, right? It doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in the time, effort, and energy in order to make that transition. And I really love, Saril, that you've just given us such a wonderful snapshot into opening a dialogue for topics that normally we don't discuss. I mean, it's certainly not something we're going to talk about at the next cocktail party or pool party that we go to.
Absolutely.
And creating a safe place is really all part of that. And I think the credibility that you bring to the picture really helps with the ongoing success that you will have with the community that you serve. So congratulations for taking the time and energy to really, delve deeper into some of the issues, invest in yourself in terms of education, and really create an opportunity for other people to come to you to seek goals and solutions for their own issues. So thank you so much for doing that.
As my absolute pleasure. I feel that women are suffering all around the globe with this, and it's such a hopeless state, right? Because the doctors, for instance, told me there's nothing we can do. And the doctors were my friends because I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. So I called on dermatologists and gastroenterologists and I said, hey, remember me? I brought you all the cookies. I need your help now.
Well, that's a wonderful marketing tip too, because they remember you for the cookies.
Right. And sadly, they didn't have any good news for me. They just said, all we can do is slow it down. And I did get on a medication that was somewhat helpful. It's spironolactone. However, the side effects were unmanageable. I had halitosis, and then there were high risks of birth defects on that medication, and I did want to have children. And so I realized it was not a long-term solution, right, for myself.
Well, one of the things that we do in the guest blog, if we can wrap up our conversation today, is we talk about 3 words of advice. And so I'd like for you to wrap up our discussion by giving us an idea as to why these 3 words were so important to you in your business. And they are: fears become prophecies.
Every time someone asks me, what is the best advice you've ever read? I think about how what you fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so that was the summary of that in 3 words. And I realized, especially in my own story, that so many different ways, but let's say, for example, with the hair loss, if I would have focused on the fear, what if it never goes back? What if this is just my destiny? Mind you, I had just broken up with my ex-boyfriend who was cheating on me with a girl 10 years younger than me. She was 23, I was 33. There was no way that I was going to let my future be me aging that way. So young, right?
By that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I said, if I focus on what I focus on, I'm going to get more of. So I can't focus on the fear. I have to focus on what's perfect and pleasing and good. A spirit of fear is not from God. And because I had that standpoint, I just started looking at what was happening. And instead of guessing, I started hypothesizing because I took the information and made it mean something positive. And so my note to everyone who's listening to this is you get more of what you focus on. So if you focus on fear, it's going to self-prophesy.
You know what? That's a really wonderful way to wrap up our conversation, because if there's anything that anyone can have as a takeaway from this, in addition to the wonderful tips that you've provided us, is the positivity and just believing in yourself. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today and giving us an opportunity to introduce the person behind the logo. It was really wonderful speaking with you.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you, Trish. I love what you're doing with your community. Thank you for giving us a platform to share our stories and inspire other people. And we're all inspired by you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Saril's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, And we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, girl.